Hello everybody, I'm Chris Callahan, and today we're going to do piece values. So let's talk about capturing pieces. After you've been playing chess for a while, you turn into a capture finding machine, which is good. So you set up with a position like this. Let's see, what do we got here? And you start finding the captures. Oh, there's one. There's another one. There's another one. Here's two more. I believe that's all the captures. But you quickly learn that not every capture is a good idea. For example, if I take this pawn right here, well, that's pretty simple. If nothing takes me back, I just take a pawn and that's the end of the story. Free pawn. Great. But sometimes it's not that simple. What if I take this pawn right here? Well, that is not a free pawn. That is a pawn that will cost me my bishop. I didn't just take something, I also lost something. So in that instance, I gave up a bishop and got a pawn. So let's compare these two pieces. Now, I know most people are already thinking that they know that clearly a bishop is worth more than a pawn. And you're right. But why? See, in other moments, the comparison might not be so clear. So we really need to know what we're comparing. What is it exactly that makes a bishop better than a pawn? Well, it's because it can simply do more. It has more options, more possibilities. In this position, for example, my bishop can go to 11 different squares, which is quite a lot. What about the pawn? Well, the pawn can go to one square with the added possibility of taking on two more if there's something to take there. So not only is the bishop better than one pawn, it's not even close. The bishop would be better than two pawns. But how far does that go? Would a bishop be better than three pawns? Would it be better than four pawns? What if we have a trade with lots of different pieces on both sides? How do we know who got the better pieces? I guess I could count the squares here, but man, there's a lot of pieces. Oh boy, this is a mess. This is going to take me forever. Count all these squares. Ugh. Yeah, forget it. Fortunately for all of us, there is a far simpler way to do this. Chess players have figured out a system to make all this simple. And because it's chess, they figured it out about 400 years ago. And the system they found has worked very well ever since. Here it is, the answer to all of your chess piece counting needs. A pawn is 1, knight and bishop 3, rook 5, and queen 9. All you have to do with any trade is add up the numbers, and whoever has the bigger number wins. Very simple. Most people call these points, but they're actually pawns. That is to say, a queen and 9 pawns is very roughly worth about the same. A rook is about 5 pawns, knight and bishop is about 3 pawns, and a pawn is worth very roughly 1 pawn. Okay, so let's add this up. The black side has a knight, which is worth 3. A rook, which is worth 5, and another rook, which is also worth 5. I believe if we add those up, we get 13. Okay, remember that, 13. On the white side, we have a rook worth 5, a bishop worth 3, and a queen worth 9. Let's add those up. I believe we get 17. So that's more than 13. White has better pieces here. All right, now you try. Here's another collection of pieces. Who has more points? I'll give you a moment to think. Pause your videos if you like. Well, let's add them up. Let's see what we got here. Black has a rook, which is worth 5. A knight, which is worth 3. I believe that adds up to 8. On the white side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns. It's 4 points, plus 3 for the knight gives us 7. So black is better, but not by a mile, just a little bit better. All right, let's try this in a more realistic setting. Obviously, when you're playing a chess game, you won't be given a chance to line up all the pieces that you're thinking about taking and get out your calculator and carefully add them up and double check your work. You'll have to visualize all of it, right? You'll have to figure it out before you take the pieces, while the pieces you are thinking of taking are still sitting on the board. So my question is, should I take this knight? When I take that knight, black will probably take back with the bishop, and then I will take back with my bishop. So we're trading a bunch of pieces here, but is it worth it? Should I take the knight? I'll give you a second to think. Pause your videos if you like. Okay, so how do we think about this? Well, let's just add up the pieces that will get taken. I'm going to take that knight. I'm going to take that bishop in a second, and I will be losing my rook. So let's add them up. The knight and the bishop is 3 points each. That's 6. And the rook by itself is 5. So I'm getting a little more. Again, it's not a huge difference, but it's better than nothing, so I should definitely take the knight. What about here? Should I take this rook with my queen? If I do, black will probably take back, and then I will take that rook. I'll give you a minute to think. Pause your videos if necessary. Well, let's add up the pieces again. I'm going to take this rook, and I will be losing my queen. So each rook is worth 5 points. That's 10 altogether. The queen is worth 9. So it's just barely worth it. And actually, I can play this out, and you can see that I'm right. So if we add up the pieces that are left on the board, it's the same number of pawns, so we can ignore them. It's 2 rooks versus a queen, 10 versus 9 again, and you can see that I'm a little bit better. Before we finish up, you may have noticed that I left a piece off the list. Where's the king? Well, we don't generally put the king on this list because the list is for trades, and kings don't get traded. They don't get taken at all. And even if you could somehow trade a king, you wouldn't need any complicated system to figure out which was worth more. The king is always worth more. The king wins the game. You could give up all your pieces, and if you get the king, it's worth it. You could give up hundreds of pieces, thousands of pieces, and if the king is what you get in return, it's worth it. You win the game. So that about sums it up. Hopefully this video has been useful to you, and you can use what you learned here to make trades and get the good pieces, and while only giving up the not so good pieces. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.